right, so let's start. My name is Just Clerk. Good evening once again. My name is Just Clerk. You call me Just for short, and I'll be your host for this evening. I'm the community manager for the metaKnyts project, and just a couple of years ago, I was sitting in your seat. I was a new investor to this project. NFTs weren't really on anyone's radar, and I saw a promotion for this motion comic NFT project. You know, it piqued my interest, and I just took a chance. And I'm very glad that I did. Since that time, the project has progressed steadily, and I've come to know the development team and the founder, Dele Atanda, who is with us here this evening. And Dele is an experienced entrepreneur whose mission is to help individuals understand how important digital identity is, as well as help us leverage technology to protect digital identity and to monetize it. His career has spanned various industries in the technology field, and as a fellow investor, I can tell you that I find that very assuring. Because when you consider any sort of investment, you should be looking at not only the product or service that the company you're interested in is selling, you should also be looking at their leadership team, what knowledge, experience, and the track record, if any, they have at achieving success. So I'm fortunate being the community manager to have greater insight into the operations now that I'm working with the team. But I believe you will also share my sentiment during today's webinar and the future events that we hold to share information on the project that is being made. So with that, I'd like to introduce our founder and CEO of metaMedia, Dele Atanda.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Jez. Thanks for the grand intro. Thank you for taking time out to join us on this Friday evening. I know that the weekend's about to start, so it's a busy time for everyone. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join us and understand a bit more about where we are. Many of you who are investors invested in the first campaign, and you'll realize that we've just launched our second campaign on Start Engine as well. So really, I thought it was a good time to give a general sort of update and overview on the project as we launch campaign 2 and kind of let you know where we are in the process and what's to come. Some people are new to metaKnyts, so there might be a little bit of ground that we cover over that those of you who are more familiar with the project will see. So I'm going to share my screen and just walk you through this presentation to get us started. Bear with me a second. I'm just going to get rid of these Zoom controls. Maybe not. All right. So I guess, again, just to answer the confusion, because during our first campaign, this was a very new project, a very new concept. We did a lot of experimentation around names of the company and names of the brand. metaKnyts, metaMedia, etc. But we've now landed on metaMedia as the company name and metaKnyts as the project name, spelled K-N-Y-T-S, as you will see. And we've also landed on this mission to really kind of consolidate and hone what it is that we're trying to achieve with this project. And it's basically about transforming ownership through storytelling and play. And that has a lot to do with the blockchain-enabled technology in terms of crypto collectibles, but it also is in terms of Reg CF and being able to own shares in the company itself. But we'll talk about that a little bit further as we go on. So, metaMedia is a crypto media company. We coined that term, as Jez was saying to us earlier when we started the project. There wasn't really an NFT industry per se, but we saw that there was an opportunity to create a next generation media company with IP that's very much targeted on Gen Zs and alphas. That's really what our story is really aimed at. But of course, it's a universal story that resonates with everyone. It's really about the transformation from the sharing economy to the ownership economy and using it as a vehicle to help people understand why that's important and how this technology actually brings about ownership of digital items, data, and other assets going forward. So our primary franchise is the metaKnyts franchise, as I described before. And, essentially, metaKnyts is a few things, but at heart, it's a story, a comic story, that is a story that's told through the comic medium initially. But of course, we've done animations in the form of motion comics. There will be other forms of animations that will do short, more conventional animations, and we're also in discussions around film and TV around that, which again I'll go into a bit more detail shortly. But it is also always was designed to be a game, and a video game which, in line with recent developments, is evolving into a metaverse platform. We always saw metaKnyts as a platform IP that could be used to bring other stories and other projects into a integrated universe. And so the metaverse is really providing a vehicle towards doing that. But of course, it is a suite of NFTs. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about some of the work we're doing in film around there as well. This is for people who are new to the project. I'll let you watch this intro video.
Media, a blockchain media company, announcing the release of its metaKnyts. That's a cryptographic digital comic series. So it's set in this world called Digitera, which is like a digital world that mirrors the physical world. And in that world, there are cyber vampires who suck people's data.
Like,
that's not accidental.
Facebook, Apple. Okay.
It's not accidental.
metaKnyts isn't just a graphic novel. It's a portal to the shifting future of your digital life, where extended reality and gaming meet the physical world. One of the things we're doing with the metaKnyts is we're releasing it with the wallet, whereby, when people sign up, they will have a self-sovereign ID. Anything you can imagine on a playing card can be created as a digital collectible and saved in your personal media wallet. The idea of creating a comic series where the issues are published as non-fungible tokens is really exciting, because it means that we can create collectible digital artifacts that can grow value over time.
Crypto actually allows us to own these assets independently of the platform.
It only takes a few minutes to purchase metaKnyts shares on startengine.com. You can own a stake in metaKnyts and the future of digital collectibles.
So again, many of you who are familiar with the project will have seen that video before, but it's usually a good way to sort of introduce what metaMedia and metaKnyts is about. So big summary, as a result of campaign one, I suppose in summary, metaKnyts is a transmedia property that traverses comics, gaming, metaverse, and NFTs and digital collectibles. We raised over $1 million on Start Engine, which was the peak that we could raise at the time, from over 3,500 investors. And that's, for us, is actually one of the best attributes about crowdfunding, the ability to build a community as well as capitalize the project. 13 episodes have been completed in this development cycle. We've developed a portfolio of 6 different types of digital collectibles or NFTs. We ran a small pilot on one of our NFTs, which sold over 30K in its first month or so, just to experiment with that space. And this year really is about activation. How do we, we've spent a lot of time building up a portfolio of creative and technical IP. And now this year we're focusing on starting to move towards launching the IP, getting the story out there and activating the community. As far as projects, NFT projects related go in the metaverse space, metaKnyts is definitely one of the most advanced ones with one of the most advanced laws. There are many NFT projects out there that sort of introduce these 10,000 character collections with the promise that they will deliver on a comic story or a video game over the course of time. We'll see how many of them emerge from that. Even projects like Bored Ape Yacht Club, which have done these 3 film pieces. I think it's fair to say that as a project, our story arc and narrative and the integration of all of these things is much more deep and complex than most projects, certainly any of the more native creative IPs in the space. So, I mean, projects like The Matrix or Batman, for example, who come into this NFT space or this digital collectible spaces obviously have very well developed laws, but they're not native IPs. So IPs that are actually more native to the space, which we are the leading one, and of course the first comic originally minted on chain, you know, that we are definitely have a much higher, much more developed architecture, law, and framework than anything else in the space in that regards. Briefly touching on types of NFTs, you know, we basically really focus around, as I say, our mission is transforming ownership through storytelling and play. So story is a very significant part of our types of collectibles. Play is another aspect of it, and identity is a third. And that's really kind of talks to our roots and our passion in terms of data sovereignty and data ownership. But in simple terms, like our Knight books, our motion comics, which are distributed as NFTs, most of the early collectors from, the early investors from our original campaign will have been delivered these. I know that there are some issues, but certainly most people who have provided us with their public keys will have received Knight books of our pilot series, as well as Knight cards, which are allow access to particular perks as well. On the play side, this is more around Knight cards and inventory. Sorry, it was posters that are really more anchored with story, but Knight cards and inventory are really all about access. Well, Knight cards particularly are about access to particular perks or particular benefits. So we released one specifically for Start Engine investors that we have distributed to the majority of people who provided us with their public keys. But they will also connect to our play to earn game as that emerges as well. And I'll show you a bit more about that. But the basic gist of it, you can see on this rotating Knight card here, is that each one of these cards has a character, and the character has a weapon or a tool or something that's special, unique to them. And the model is that when the game is launched, people will be able to, who hold that card, will be able to access that inventory in game. On the other hand, we launched our first PFP from our Origin collection, which is a collection of 10 PFPs based around characters from the saga. We do limited edition runs of them, 1,860. We've only released the first one, Emissary. We have another 2 in the can, along with another series of Knight cards and etc. And then of course, finally is our metavatars, which is really talks to the metaverse space. And I'll talk about that one in a little bit more detail down the road, so I'll skip that for now. But aside from delivering great artwork and great connections to the story, what we're starting to see in the industry is this narrative around utility emerging. And for us, we see the utilities that our NFTs and collectibles deliver falling into 3 categories. So the first, of course, is monetary, and that's less about what they will sell for on the secondary market. I personally don't believe as an issuer, as someone who's as a creator in that sense, that that's something that we should seek to control per se. I mean, there are things we can do as a community, but primarily, you know, what we can definitely deliver in terms of financial benefits are priority minting, you know, liquidity pools and staking, which we'll be introducing, where people will be able to use these in those kind of DeFi orientated ways. And then bounties and referral programs, those are all coming as part of the ecosystem and law. Ownership, of course, is central. So ownership of identity, voting rights in the DAO when that is established, and of course, metaverse data protection is another thing that we're going to be showcasing, which is again pioneering. But then there's fellowship, and we think, you know, having a community of investors and collectors and enthusiasts of the mission of what metaKnyts is about is something that we think is of great value. And then we are also working on a variety of different types of clubs, and I'll talk a little bit more about them, as well as education in school. So one of the things that we are doing and this started in our Discord, is to create some sort of learning materials and learning process. Very much a key part of this project is being able to teach people more about this space, not only in terms of why it's important, but how it operates and what you do and how you get wallets and keys and that sort of thing. So those are kind of the primary NFT utilities that the project delivers. But also, like I say, we've designed this to be a platform IP to facilitate partnerships. And there are a few really interesting partnerships that we're working on. One is with the Electric Scooter Championship, which is still it's still quite confidential, so I can't get into any detail about that at the moment. But Immortal Studios is another example of a partnership of a company that we are partnering with. Immortal Studios is an IP holder. They hold an IP. Well, they have. It's led by a gentleman called Peter Shao, and they basically have a library of content based around wuxia, which is like a Chinese martial art, mythical martial arts genre. So like things like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Shaolin temples are all based on this wuxia concept. But it also transfers into things like Star Wars, The Matrix, John Woo, anything where there's this sort of fantastic kind of martial arts is wuxia style. So we're partnering with Immortal Studios. They have done a distribution deal with Destiny, and for their comics, they produced a series of comics in the wuxia style, and we're working with them to get distribution for the metaKnyts saga in a broad sort of traditional distribution context. But then, of course, and the quid pro quo is that they will be licensing our technology and platform as once we get to the stage that we're going to license it out to third parties. We're working with a few educational institutions and universities and colleges that we're talking with now around Web3 clubs. And those conversations are ongoing both with HBCUs and other universities as well as working with the DQ Institute on digital literacy. One of the key things that we are delivering with this project is this Knight wallet, which is our universal crypto media wallet. And that is in development currently. I mean, there are a few challenges to overcome in bridging the Web 2 world and the Web 3 world, but we are working to having an early release of this for the closed alpha group for the end of the year, and having a proper launch for it come the end of Q1 next year. And this will be the home for the project in terms of an app where you'll have, multi-currency, multimedia, and where our loyalty and rewards program will reside as well. And in that sense, a key aspect of the Knight wallet will be Knight Key, where we deliver tools that enhance people's self-sovereign ID. One of the things we have done with the project thus far is we issued emissary top level domain names to our community, whereby all people who are collectors of our emissaries would be able to get a top level domain name. So it was .emissary in that case. We have also got .metaKnyts as a domain. So we'll be issuing people with a .metaKnyts ID that will be a unique crypto ID that you can use for your ID and persona online in the cryptoverse more broadly, but specifically in the metaKnyts community. We're going to be encouraging people to create their own Knight names and Knight IDs around that. But this is really powerful in terms of self-sovereign data tools, which again, we'll get into it in more detail down the road, but that's kind of a key part of our proposition. And as I said at the top of the call, the thing that, metaKnyts is a story about the battle for the soul of the metaverse. And of course, we were ahead of the market in that concept, and the market is really picking up at the moment. Our story is based on the idea that there's a physical world Terra, analog world Terra, and a digital world Digiterra. But the arc of the story is that there is this blended world of metaTerra. So while we've been building out metaKnyts video game in Unreal, which I'll show you some video for shortly, we've also been working with partners like Milk and Geopipe listed here to use our game as a metaverse basis, as the basis for metaverse, where it's privacy preserving, where there's an ethical marketing mandate, So with Milk, for example, Milk Studios we're working with, they have created a framework of integrating billboards into metaverse properties for brands to have presences there. And so we're working with them to integrate this into a platform model that basically will allow us in Milk to create a metaverse building platform for other projects that want privacy preserving metaverse, where we're building this ethical metaverse framework effectively built around the metaKnyts franchise and built around our data protection IP. So all of the stuff we were showing around data sovereignty will play an important part in this new type of clean data metaverse that we're going to be pioneering. And I mentioned metavatars, they'll play an important role in this metaverse context because they will give you an avatar that you'll be able to move across compliant and friendly complementary metaverses, which some other people are doing. But what's unique about the way that we're approaching it is that it's like you'll have a force field around this avatar that will enable you to have full control of your data when you are in compliant metaverses, and will warn you when you're in non-compliant metaverses so that you can take the right sort of measures there, but bring as much automated protection to that experience as we can do as a third party. So that's going to be a really exciting aspect of our metaverse offering and how it ties in with the metaKnyts brand overall. This is just a little bit, I should pause, this is a little video showing our metaverse.
Food and trees and NFTs, but most of all, we need to be free. Slow burn, not all hype, decompression, chamber type plan, alright? Smash those supremacy goals and laws. You signed up but didn't read the fine print clause. Give those fanboys pause. Fast forward, they analyze AI eyes, trained to claim our prize. Most don't know, they don't realize it's all tied. I do to what you do, who you know where you reside. Sucking your life to grow the lie. Down the slippery slope we slide, roll over your third eye. Fight to change the tide, rewrite, that was a lie. Good and evil energy is the fight to flip the tide. Thought privacy to die, you never do the metaKnyts. Down the slippery slope we slide, roll over your third eye, battle to change the tide, enter the metaKnyts.
So that's just a sneak peek on what the game is looking like and how it's working and the basis of that. The soundtrack there is by an artist from our community, Symbolic. He's a collector and a shareholder as well, and you know, it's testimony of the kind of engagement we're having with the community, and we see many more kind of things like that coming in the future. So let's kind of talk product roadmaps. So first of all, in terms of the crypto comics, the cryptographic novels and animations and NFTs, that's pretty much in the can. 13 episodes. We're finishing off the last couple of the last 2 episodes in terms of motion comics around them and just making sure they're all up to scratch. But the 13 episodes effectively developed with motion comics and 6 different types of NFTs, which include the 13 episodes, 10 motion posters, 10 night cards, the Origin collection of PFPs, which will be 10. We have 3 of those completed at the moment. And then in-game inventory, there's a whole bunch of inventory. And you could see in that video, the little bit of a snippet, how you can see the inventory engine, how that will connect with your wallet, and also how you will also have character customization with, well, I'm not going to go into any detail around that at the moment because it's still very much a work in progress and not short of challenges. But what I think you can also see is it's a high image quality. You know, we're looking to deliver something that feels like a AAA game, you know, as a blockchain powered game, which is there are not many doing that currently. So the metaverse and the play to earn and learn to earn game is in development, and that's in alpha development. That's a slower burn cycle for sure than the comics and animations and whatnot. but it's on a similar kind of time frame and cycle to the metaKnyts film TV series. So we are in a lot of discussions with a few studios at the moment around potentially doing a TV series. That's probably going to, I mean, we see all of that on the roadmap, but in the more immediate future, we're looking at short films and feature films. And I can't go into any detail about it at the moment because we are still formalizing it, but we have a very significant screenwriter from within the Marvel universe that we've agreed terms with and we're formalizing it around him working with us on a screenplay for metaKnyts on the story in a feature film context. So I think that vertical again is very exciting in terms of the future prospects for the project. So again, I mentioned this at the top of the call, you know, we're very much we have a very broad constituents of investors and followers and customers and collectors. And we always want to welcome everyone to the project in that regard. But I think in terms of our hone and prime target, it's really Gen Zs and Alphas, because we know that they are the generation who's going to bring this ownership economy fully forward and really kind of have an impact there. So that's really sort of what we're working towards. The market is just becoming bigger and bigger every year. So comics in themselves is over $1 billion market for just North America alone. Gaming was 178 billion in 2021, scheduled to be over 200 million market over the next 2 years. And then the metaverse is projected to be an $800 billion market by 2024, which is simply colossal. And McKinsey recently released a report saying that they believe it will be a $5 trillion market by 2030. So it really is, metaKnyts does sit at the cross section of these billion-dollar verticals, and we think is well positioned to grow in that space in a very unique and compelling way. And, you know, which kind of brings us to where we are today. And, you know, from an investment opportunity, we think it's really strong. We went through a lot of work with Start Engine in terms of assessing our valuation based on where we are and based on what's happening in the market. So, you know, we have launched this now with a 48.8 million valuation, which means that there's been a 6x ROI to campaign one investors. And that's really important, really material. You know, I think certainly in this space, we know that the highest performing class of stock, generally speaking, is pre-IPO tech companies. And in this space, in what we're doing, the potential for growth is colossal. So we anticipate that our valuation will continue to rise, particularly as we move to execution and deployment. We can see this, and really how we are positioning ourselves is the balance of 2022 and first quarter of 23 is really going to be about setting ourselves up for a large sales cycle across 2023, where we anticipate there will be a next wave. So this is another bit of a summary. So that just gives you a bit of a sense of the project overall. And at this point, I will pause and ask for questions. So please ask me anything, as they say. All right, there we go. Just Clark, can you pick up a Q&A? Is there anything here at the moment?
Yeah, it was just we asked before where people were coming from. Some people did say that the chat was disabled, but I'm seeing it now. It looks like it could be a bit of a delay. So once again, if you have any questions, if you are an investor, anything that you saw in the presentation that you'd like it to expand upon, if you're not yet an investor of the metaKnyts project and something you're curious about, this is the time.
And also, please feel free to raise your hand if you want to ask a question in person. We can give you the floor. That's fine too. You can type them or ask them, whatever is more comfortable for everyone. So while people are thinking that through, let me talk about some things that I know are burning platforms for a lot of people. I mean, I know that some of our investors from the first campaign, for example, are still haven't received their perks. So let's talk about that. So I think the first thing is that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable for people not to have received their perks. I will say there's more, perks come in two forms. There's physical perks and the digital ones. The digital ones are what we've focused on getting out first because it's just easier to do because we are such a small team. And I know that that's not really an acceptable excuse overall, but we have put a lot of emphasis on building value in the company. We feel our first responsibility to you as shareholders is to improve the value, build value in the franchise, build value in the company by way of your shareholder value. And I think that we've done a pretty good job in terms of that, particularly when you look at what we've been able to achieve in terms of evaluation now. So that's, I think, an important context to have. But that said, one of the things we want to definitely get better at is making sure that we get perks out to investors sooner rather than later. So one of the things that we will be doing through campaign 2 is distributing perks on an ongoing basis. With campaign 1, we waited for the campaign to finish and then started distributing perks, which is a bit more onerous. But we're going to be doing it as we go through the campaign in this stance. And we're going to be building a customer service team as well to help with that, to really look into that, because that's a bit of an Achilles heel for us and one that we know we need to do a better job of. That said, there is also a lot of educating that's needed as well, because I think a lot of people have had their NFTs or night cards distributed to them, but haven't been able to find them. Like someone wrote on the campaign today that they hadn't received anything, and I went to Polyscan to check on it and could see that actually they have been delivered. So there's part of that process is understanding, getting a MetaMask wallet and then connecting it to OpenSea. Sometimes you have to connect it to Polygon as well in order to see your NFT perks that have been sent to you, and you have to go to your hidden tab to do that. We will run a webinar on that in the near future and record that so that people can see that. But I would say that, I certainly think a lot of people who feel they haven't got their perks just haven't been able to find them. But there are some people who have fallen through the gap. So again, apologize about that, and we will definitely be taking care of that, as well as all person.
Yeah, it seems the chat is disabled, but it's coming through on my end. So if you do have a question, go ahead and type your question. Someone asked about the Knight wallet. Is the Knight wallet available?
Not as yet. And also there are questions. You can also write your questions in the Q&A. I can see those ones quite clearly as well. Mm-hmm. So the Knight wallet it's sort of, it's not available as yet. Well, like I say, our aim is to have a closed beta release of it for the end of this year. It's one of those things that there is a challenge between bridging the world of Web 2 and the world of Web 3. And there are lots of small things that are problematic to resolve. For example, like credit card payments. That was something that it took us a long while to get done, but to get credit cards integrated into our web properties. Another challenge is the relationship between crypto projects and the Apple and Google stores, which means that we've been wrestling with building it as a web app versus a native app, and there are compromises you make on both of those. But essentially, there have been a few gremlins that we've been ironing out, even in terms of simple things like when we're distributing the files, the motion comics, they're pretty big files, and a lot of the crypto infrastructure like IPFS isn't built to handle such large files. So we're having to create workarounds around these things. So, I mean, we are breaking a lot of ground with this project, and we're building not just the project, but a lot of the infrastructure that's needed for a project like this as we go along. So that kind of causes some delays. Our intention with the Knight wallet is that it is a really great user experience. This is something we don't want to fall short on. So there's a few enabling things that need to be done in order for that to happen. But like I say, our intention is to have a beta release to a small section of the community by the end of this year, with a full version 1 release come the end of Q1 next year.
So someone asked again, as far as information about access to the shareholder resources. So I'm typing in the link to the Discord. So the invite link to the Discord for them if they're not a member of the Discord already.
Yeah, so there's that. So this is a bit more of a complicated question. So there are investor resources on startengine.com. So in the Start Engine portal, when you go to your account, you will have my investments, and you can see details of that. Start Engine manage that, and it's the SEC regulate that all of the Reg CF work has to be managed on a crowdfunding platform. So for anything around your investments, your shares, even things like secondary markets, it's another question we get a lot. How can I sell my shares? Well, there are secondary markets that are available through portals like Start Engine. Typically, they are for more mature projects, so projects that are usually in the Reg D or Reg A plus space, which is typically, a year or two away from where we are as a company in that regards. But there are secondary market sales opportunities through Start Engine, but that all has to go through Start Engine. In terms of community access and what we airdrops and information about the project, most of that we manage through Discord. So Discord is sort of like our community space at the moment for that, and what just has put in the chat around that will help you find that.
Someone said, since we're having a comic book series, will there be physical copies?
Yeah, so, and that's actually it's a great question. So yes, the pilot episode 0 is on Amazon now. I also putting the next pilot episode and episode 1.0 of season 1. It is possible that we may actually even release episode 1.0 in print before we release it in the digital format. Just a question of which nut we crack first. The way that again, not boring you with the details, but the way that the comics are designed, they're designed in very large format. So it's a challenge getting them down to a small format that Amazon or that print publishers can do. So we've had to use a specialist agency to do that. It took a while to find one, and there's a lot of correcting going on. But essentially, I'm anticipating that I will have I've got the interior files, just the covers, integrated into Amazon for the first 2 episodes by the end of next week. Certainly by the end of next week, and then episode 1.0 very shortly after that. So yes, you'll be able to get the first 3 episodes on Amazon. You can get the first episode on Amazon now, and you'll be able to get the first 3 episodes on Amazon within the next couple of weeks.
Another good question coming. How are you dividing time between each project, the NFTs, gaming, and the comic book?
They kind of lead sequentially. So, on the story front, most of the comic is an approval process for me now, because we spent most of 2020 and 2021 building out the story. So, and that's the foundation, the story, the lore is the foundation. So now we've got a lot of that in the can, most of that in the can. It's more about distribution and getting a distribution and sales machine in place. So on the product development side, there's not a huge amount to do on the comic side. You know, we're just finishing off the animations. There's an editorial process there, but it's more editorial. So that moves into the business cycle now, the commercialization and distribution cycle. On the game, that's still much more nascent. So there's a bit of work there. On the NFTs, I mean, it rises and it rises and falls. So like I say, we've got 3 of our Origin PFPs done. One is already in the market, the MS3, which you can find on our site at the moment, and the other 2 are pretty much done. So it's really just about sequencing when they're going to be released. So I would say those parts of the project don't take up a huge amount of time. The parts that do take time are problem solving in terms of how do you randomize. So we've got the comics, we're going to be releasing the comics with 3 different covers. And so the way that it will work is that you'll mint a comic and it will be a randomly assigned whether you get a rare, epic, or legendary edition. So there's some of them are more rare than others, dramatically more rare than others. But getting that to work with the file sizes has been a challenge, kind of getting that worked out. So these things can cause a bigger delay than some of
You mentioned evaluation from the first campaign to the current one. If someone had a question, I don't think they caught what you said that during the presentation. You said, how much has my original investment appreciated?
6 times. So if you invested $100, your shares are now worth $600. If you invested $1,000, your shares are now worth $6,000. So it's a significant increase in value of those shares. Now, can you liquidate those? That's the question we were talking about, secondary markets and the like. Though, you know, I think it is important to recognize that startup investment is a long-term activity, and you're going to get the most value if you hold on to those shares for at least a few years, where our valuation will continue. You know, we're on the hockey stick. At some point, that valuation peaks, and that's really the time when usually companies do an IPO or sell to a strategic, and then so if it's sold to a strategic, then you are paid out, or usually given the chance to sell your shares to the acquirer at that point. Or if the company IPOs, then you can sell your shares on the public market. But as I say, what is emerging in the space is there is a new secondary market emerging. But also that will give you a way to be able to sell those shares in the near future. But again, our mission is to keep building value in the company. So encouraging people to retain those shares because they will become more valuable over time.
One of the questions, and I think the user may need to unmute so that you can clarify the question, because they're asking, how will this work with other forms of media, music/video production? Will this also be smart contract for production and sales?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of understand the question. Well, yeah, so, well, there is a complexity to the question. How does crypto media live alongside traditional media? That's kind of being formed at the moment. I think most of the crypto media space has been focused on NFT art for the last year. My personal belief is that the big trend that we're going to see in 2023 is a movement of brands and media to the NFT space. So we hope to be at the forefront of that. You know, I mean, effectively, crypto media is like other digital media, music, songs, film, and the like. But the difference is that it's scarce. You have real scarcity. You can limit the amount of units that are produced, and it can't be replicated. Yes, you can have a video file and someone can copy that file, but that file won't give them access to the perks. Like the night cards that Start Engine investors have, when you go to Discord, that night card gives you access to the investor rooms or the Order of Metaye rooms. And if someone takes a copy or a picture or does a right click, as is often said, that right-clicked copy is not going to give you access to those utilities. So that's really the big advantage of crypto media, that it allows us to create scarce numbers of those and to create unique versions of them that can't be replicated by others. But, you know, I will say as well, this is a very new space. And, you know, when you look at the metaverse particularly, I think this is where we're really seeing a new type of media experience when you look at look at the NFTs and the metaverse, which again, we intend to be at the forefront of through the video game and through our NFT framework.
It seems like we do have some people who are relatively new. One person asked again, is this the wallet I use to purchase metaKnyts shares?
No, so metaKnyts shares are just purchased through Start Engine. It's not really a crypto process at all. It's you use a credit card, or you can connect it to your bank account through ACH payments directly. So that's how you acquire shares. And that was an important thing for us because, you know, we are building a next generation media franchise, but, you know, we want people to be able to own traditional equity, just like any other share. We could be, you know, we could be a pizza company in that sense. As far as Start Engine is concerned, you're buying equity, standard equity in a very normal way. Okay, Reg CF is a little bit new, but it's basically paying with credit cards or debit cards, and you're issued those shares and you have an account on Start Engine, which you can go to and see your investments anytime. So that's how you acquire the shares. What the Knight wallet and what MetaMask does in the short term is allows you to be able to buy metaMe's items. metaKnyts actual items, you know, our NFTs, our comics, our crypto media assets. You need to have a crypto wallet to be able to buy and store those things, or hold them as it's called in the industry. And so in the short term, we're using MetaMask because that's the most popular one in the space. But even the Knight wallet will integrate with MetaMask itself. So you know, wallets are really the key applications of the crypto space, of the blockchain space, and you need to have a wallet to be able to interact with blockchain networks. So all of our comics and all of our NFTs and digital collectibles, you will need a wallet to be able to acquire them, hold them, and utilize them. MetaMask is our wallet of choice for the moment, but we are building out our own Knight wallet, which will integrate things like MetaMask and other wallets into it.
That seems to have been the last question.
Okay, so let's see, any other questions from anyone? We've got a few minutes left. Otherwise, I am happy to give everyone some time back. So let me see, I think there were some questions typically. I think we've addressed all the stuff around share sale. We do get asked a lot, where can people see their investment? As I say again, Start Engine dashboard is your best place to go, your individual account there. I think the one thing I will just stress again, and particularly for season one investors, we're going to, or campaign one investors, we're going to do a better job with campaign two on getting these from people right at the point where Start Engine share contact details of investors with us, to get people to provide us with their MetaMask public key, because that's a really critical, like I say, it's the way you interact with blockchains is through a wallet. So you sign things through a wallet, you buy things with a wallet. So a wallet holds your cryptocurrency, it holds your signatures as well. So you can think of it like an email account, and you know, with an email account where you need your email address is like your public key, and your password is like your private key. And then you send and receive emails from it. The difference with the wallet is that you can actually send and receive money and assets like NFTs or digital items and store those in those wallets as well. So it's really, and that's kind of part of the core education. How do you use a wallet? You need to understand wallets and get a wallet and get your public key and private key to be able to interact with the ecosystem. So I would stress that's a really important first step to come by, because as investors in this project, you will be getting NFTs and collectibles, but those are valuable in and of themselves, but particularly like the Knight card that we issued to start engine, that we've issued to start engine investors, will be able to airdrop, so send you things in the future. And I'm not talking about sending you messages or email or spam. I'm talking about things that are of value. Could be new editions, limited editions, could be inventory, could be tickets, could be perks from other affiliate projects. So, you know, NFTs really are about a way for a brand or a company to build a relationship with its community. So even though you might just be thinking at the moment that, okay, the picture's okay, I'm not so crazy about it, it's much more than that. So I would really encourage everyone to make sure they get a MetaMask wallet. If they haven't done so, make sure they share the public key with us if they haven't done so, because we're not really able to distribute the sort of high value perks to you without you having that.
So someone asked, will the Knight wallet be compatible with the Ledger?
So Ledger, it's a complicated question. So Ledger is a cold wallet for people who don't know. Cold wallets are wallets that are not connected to the internet per se. You have to put a cable to connect them. You only temporarily connect them to the internet, and they sit outside of your computer out there. They're not online. They're not permanently online, which makes them much more secure. It means they're less likely to be hacked. So you could potentially store NFTs on Ledger. I'm not sure whether Ledger has an integration with Ethereum and Polygon for NFTs per se, but if it does, and I use a Ledger wallet, so I can look into it. But if it does, then yes, you will be able to move. Well, you'll be able to move your NFTs into your Ledger wallet. Now, how much we integrate the metaKnyts Knight wallet with it will be a case of demand and time frame, because it is a somewhat complex thing to achieve, and we'll have to see that there's sufficient demand from the community to warrant that. But technically, it should be possible, yes.
Yes, we have another developer, a future entrepreneur amongst us, and is asking, are you available for mentoring?
Yes. Yes is a short answer. Obviously, my time is kind of pretty dense these days, but no, absolutely. Join the community, join us on Discord, and you can DM me there, and I'd be happy to help as best as I can. And so I've got an anonymous attendee asking about sharing public key. You can do that with us via email. We will hold a session. We have got some materials, and we're going to get better organized about this. We have got some materials that do show you how to create a MetaMask wallet. In fact, some of them are in our Discord. When you go to Discord, there are some welcome materials, and there's some tutorials around how to create a MetaMask wallet, what your public key is, how to share it, and the like. So I would urge you to start there, join our Discord, and look at some of the introductory material there. And we will be developing more as we go along. Okay, any other questions?
I think that's it.
So look, I think I'll just close by saying, I think this is a long project. We are when we started this project back in 2019, there was no NFT industry, and we couldn't even talk about that. We always spoke about digital collectibles. That industry just exploded like in 2020 and 2021. And then it crashed a little bit, crashed significantly really this year. There will be a next wave of NFT projects, and like I say, I think media is going to be at the forefront of many of those, and we're positioning ourselves to be that. But it is we're not in this for a short-term play. We're in this to build a franchise that will be valuable over the course of time. You know, if you look at something like Black Panther, for example, as a franchise, it was a comic saga that existed for many years before it became a billion-dollar movie franchise. Now, there is an accelerant, and because we're a crypto media and because our story is very timely about this space, we're not anticipating waits of decades for success in that regard. But I do want to make sure that people are right-sizing their expectations in terms of how, you know, when this is going to come alive. But, you know, you'll start to see more and more around it. And yeah, join us on the journey. If you have any further questions, you can reach us at info@metaMedia.com. I would definitely urge you, if you're not an investor, to go to the Start Engine campaign page and look at the campaign to understand a lot more detail about it. It's startengine.com/metaKnyts, METAKNYTS. And you can go to metaKnyts.com. Also, at the bottom of metaKnyts.com, there's a link to the Start Engine page, and there's a lot of information about the project on our website as well as you'll be able to buy the comics and our PFPs from there as well. So with that said, you know, if you have any questions, do please reach out to me or any of the team, either through Discord or through email or through Start Engine, and we'll try and respond accordingly.